first thing we are going to do is go into our Scratch. We're going to look at our sprite, and we are going to delete the sprite so that we can create our own new sprite. We go into the library and we go to transportation. We select our spaceship costume and we bring in our spaceship right here. We go to the second space and then we grab the top and rotate it so that it's facing right. We want to make sure that it is spacing perfectly right, just like this. And we want that direction where the nose of the spaceship is pointed. So all of our spaceships are going to do the same thing here. We're going to make it a little bit fancier, like this. So we are going to duplicate our spaceship, and we are going to take a nice little ellipse tool and thicker than normal, and we will just draw a ring right here like that. So slightly bigger ring that's further away, and then an even bigger ring for the third frame. So let's look at that. This is how we're going to do this. We have all three frames with the elliptical ring that is drawn like that. Perfect. So that looks great. Now I'm going to click onto my thing and I shrinked it, my spaceship, and now that's my it's big. In while we are making these changes, let's click on the stage, change the background to one of the backgrounds that Scratch has provided us. So we are going to go in and choose the backdrop button from the library, and I want to use this stars background. So it really looks great. And let's go back to the spaceship sprite and add some code to the sprite. So when the user clicks onto the green flag, we'll want to move the spaceship to the very center of the stage. So let's go to the blue motion category, grab the X and Y and set both X and Y values to 0. And since we'll hide the spaceship at the end of the game, we'll also want to make this spaceship show at the very, we have the show block and snapped it into place right under there. Now we'll go into a forever loop and go to the control section and grab a forever block, and all this code is going to do is have the spaceship follow around the mouse cursor. So we are going to use the blue motion category, point towards the mouse cursor, and then move a few steps towards, say 10 is too fast, so we are going to make it this slow to 5 steps. And then we want to play the frames of animations. We'll go to the purple look section and grab the next costume block. So this is how it looks. We want to add a little timer to the top left so that we'll create a variable in the orange data section. So click on to make a variable. The variable name will be time. And so the very start of the program, we are going to have time start off at 0. So when the green flag is first clicked, we are going to set the time 20, and then we'll enter into a forever loop here. We want the value of the time to be number of seconds that have passed since the very start of the game. So we'll add this wait 1 second block. We'll change them down to the 10th of a second to and then the orange data section will change the time value by 0.1. So when we run this, we can see that the time variable is sort of like a stopwatch where it's counting and the game next draws some meteors. So let's click on the paint new sprite button, and drawing these meteors will be simple. So we'll select a bright yellow color first, paintbrush tool, draw a little teardrop shape facing the right. I'm trying my best to do this, and then we can fill that with the paint bucket tool. And once we have that yellow teardrop, go ahead and right click on that and duplicate it to make 4 identical costumes. This way we'll have the same yellow core, but we'll have different red flames around each costume, which will essentially be our using our paintbrush tool. So we draw an outline around, say, the first costume in the yellow core part, and we can make the flicker towards the towards the back of it, and we are going to fill it up. So let's look at the second costume. We are going to do the same thing with the second costume. Draw it and then fill it up and flicker, maybe add a little bit more um, different shape to it, and that looks good, and we have filled it up. Now let's go to the costume 3, do the same thing all over again. It doesn't have to look perfect, but the random irregular look to all these costumes will make it look like flames that are flickering behind it. So that's why the changes in the costumes is very important. So let's do our fourth costume. So I have a little bit of random shape going on here, but and then I'm going to fill it up with the red flame. Perfect. So I have we'll just draw some sparks coming from out back, that way, just placing that way it seems like a meteor, and a flaming meteor at top of that. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Those are the 4 costumes. Now let's go. We can see we just temporarily grab one of these forever loops and put a next costume inside of it, and then double click it to run this loop. That looks pretty good. So so let's rename this sprite to Meteor 1, and we'll add all the code of this sprite and duplicate it, make it several afterwards. So the code for the meteor is pretty simple. um, let's start off with when the green flag is clicked and have it in a forever loop, and what the meteor will do is first hide themselves and then wait a random amount of time, and then just so that they come down at different intervals, and then they will move themselves up to the very top, and place them randomly somewhere at the top. Also come down in random directions. Once I'll show themselves, they start moving down, meanwhile seeing if they are touching the player, the broadcasting a game and a message, and hit the bottom, they'll just hide themselves again and then start the entire process all over again. So let's start to step by step program this. So we are going to take the purple block, grab the high, and then we have the second, so it's the orange control section. Grab the wait 1 second block, number of seconds. We'll grab the wait pick random. We don't want it to be that long, so let's do kind of a problem. So pick random will only return the number 1 to always be right. So so this looks good. That would be nice if we could have it just maybe around 2.6 seconds or 4.2 seconds, but we can see that. We can do the math, pull this out for a little bit, and let's change this to 10 to 50. And then grab this division operator block, put that in the front, and then have that divide by 10. Now this pick random 10 to 50 will have values like 26, which when divided by 10, so that we can have 2.6 seconds and so on and so forth. I'll give us much more random downward pouring of these meteors. So now we have to set it somewhere randomly for its X value to go to the blue motion category. We'll just set X to a random number, go to the operator section and grab the pick random, and anywhere from negative 240 to positive 240 far right side, and then we'll always want it at the top. So let's set the Y value to just positive 180, and we'll be at the very top. And then we also want it to point downwards, so direction and don't always want to point directly down, which so might need to add some degrees to it. and write a little bit. Just let's grab the operator section, grab this plus sign. So we want it to be 180 degrees plus, or minus, say, 25 degrees. So we could grab that, pick random block and say pick a random number between negative 25 and 25, and I'll add a little variance in where it is pointed, and it will still generally be pointed downwards, but it won't always be straight down, and snap that into place now. So so now we are in position, we can go ahead and show it, and now want to enter into a loop and keep moving downwards. So go to the control section and grab this repeat until block, and we can have the meteor keep going down and keep checking if it hits the player until its y value reaches something less than negative 160. So in the operator section, grab that less than operator, and in the motion category, we'll get the meteor at y position of the meteor is negative 160. Then we'll stop looping this loop and continue on. After the point, we'll just have the loop back to the top and forever block and hide itself and wait. So so the meteors will essentially start falling down, but meanwhile walls in the loop move downward. So grab this move 10 steps block. We also want to animate by changing the costumes through those different frames of animation that we have. So so click on the purple, say next costume block, and then we also want to check if it's touching the spaceship. So go to the control section and grab this block if we want to see if it's touching the spaceship. So we say if touching the spaceship, we can then clicking on the back triangle case, we'll have the broadcast game over event, and we'll reprogram the spaceship to handle that broadcast. So broadcast message, let's say new message, and we'll say game over. So so let's add the code to the spaceship sprite and handle when it receives the game over broadcast. So when I receive game over block from the events category, and in this event we want the spaceship to hide itself, because we'll have a different sprite of an explosion animate itself instead of we want to stop this other script that counts up the timer. So go to the orange control section and grab the stop block. Stop block, we don't want to stop the entire program, we just want to stop all the other scripts in this sprite, particularly the script right here which has the timer go up as soon as it hits as soon as it is hit by a meteor and the game over message is broadcasted. Then it will stop this stopwatch. So so let's test this out, and this time we'll be going up, and then perfect. So now we got the meteor, and let's make a cool explosion sprite that can play once the spaceship gets hit by a meteor. We could draw this ourselves, but this kind of tricky. Instead, we could just download an image of an explosion animation off of the internet sites, and I'm going to download and then save these links. So I have a couple of explosion PNGs that I have saved into your computer, and those explosions 1 through 8, and back at the Scratch editor can create a new sprite by uploading an image from your computer into the editor. So I'll start off with explosion 1, and then for the sprite it will go to the costume tab and upload different costumes from each of these explosions. So we're going to continue uploading these different costumes. So I have 5, 6, and 7 costumes uploaded. I'm just opening them up and from my desktop and adding them to our sprite. So I have costume 8 PNG. So I have 8 different costumes. This explosion script section of the explosion sprite is pretty simple. All it does is at the very start of the program, it hides itself, hence it doesn't need to be seen until the ship gets hit by a meteor, and then it will just wait until it receives that game over sprite. So when I receive the block from the brown event category, let's make sure it starts off with the very first costume. So in the purple looks category, grab that switch costume block and switch it to explosion 1. And then we also want the explosion sprite to be wherever the player's spaceship was. So in the blue motion category, grab this go to block and click on the black triangle to set it to go to spaceship. And now that's sitting right in the right position with the correct costume. Go ahead and show it. So in the looks category, grab the show block now. All we have to do is have it run through all the different costumes now, and we could have 8 of these costume blocks in a row, but instead let's go to the orange block, grab this repeat loop block, and we'll just set it to repeat all the code of it 8 times. And then now we can just grab one next costume block and have that executed 8 times, but just so that we don't have it play as possible without a slight delay from the orange control section, grab the wait 1 section block. 1 second is way too long, and so we are going to do a very short delay of 0.03 seconds, and then after the explosion animation is played, and we'll want the sprite to hide itself. And even though at this point the spaceship is blown up, let's give the player a chance to just consider the dark, vast emptiness of space. Good enough so that let's go and from the orange control section, grab this block and say wait 2 seconds. Then after that, it'll terminate the entire program. So stop all will do that. Okay, let's try this out and green flag and start testing it. That looks nice, and here comes wonderful. So you saw the big explosion, and then it stopped automatically. So one meteor isn't that tricky to avoid, but let's start duplicating this stripe over and over and over again. So we have more meteors, so we have it harder for our rocket to dodge it. So maybe go to 10 meteors, and then when you play it, you have a lot of meteors coming in, and so now you have to duck and figure out a way. Okay, so it sort of becomes much harder, and it is very hard to dodge the meteors. So this becomes a really great nice little program. Animations of spaceships and also of the meteors, but also have to download different animation images, and then you have to upload them to your so you can change the looking animations that other people have also made, or you can find different explosion images online as well for this. But this is what it looks like.